Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Co-work Collective again. And if you do tune into this, thanks very much for checking it out. I'm joined today by Jessica Healy, who's out in the UK as well. So, Jess, actually didn't check where you were. You're in the UK, yeah?
Yeah, I am.
Brilliant, brilliant. So you're a digital agency owner as well.
I am, yeah.
Cool. How's that going? Do you have a niche? Do you specialize in anything in particular?
Yes, we specialize in female-centric D2C e-commerce brands, so pretty niched actually. So within the e-commerce niche, we focus on kind of female-centric brands and mostly direct-to-consumer brands rather than like pre-existing or ones that have a kind of a wholesale arm.
Got
Um, for that niche, we serve them with Facebook, Instagram, Google, and now Pinterest ads. So paid ads only. We don't do SEO, don't do email, don't do web builds, any of that. We just do their ads for them on those main channels that really work for those particular types of niche. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, cool. Cool, which is quite interesting considering obviously the topic that you suggested that you wanted to talk about was forecasting and
Yeah.
looking down the pipeline and picking and being a little bit more or for lack of a better word, picky about the leads that we bring into the businesses that we're doing digital marketing for.
Yeah.
That's quite an interesting one considering it's direct to consumer and it's sort of probably, I would imagine, quite mass marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's mass. I mean, the type of products we tend to market are like fashion jewelry, baby products, kids education products, a little bit of beauty and skincare, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And it tends to be in the more premium space. So, products with an average order value of £100 and up. So it's mass market in a sense, but it's going after that kind of premium section of a mass market.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so yeah, the forecasting thing has been an absolute game changer for me, I would say, in the last kind of 6 months since I started using it. So what I did was I built this forecast spreadsheet that basically you can plug in. You can take the inputs from a prospective client. For instance, they might already have ads running, so you can look at what their cost per click currently is. They should already know their conversion rate on their website. If they don't, that straight away is a red flag to me, because I don't want to work with businesses that don't know their numbers, because then they're just stabbing in the dark and it's not going to be a long relationship. So we need to know the cost per click, the conversion rate, the average order value. And again, these are numbers that they should know. If they don't, it's kind of concerning. Also, asking a prospect these kind of numbers really makes us look good. I think it helps with the whole sales pitch. I'm not a salesy person. I more take an approach of, like, with my sales process, I'm more kind of like a trusted advisor.
Gotcha.
So by the end of the sales process, if they are the right prospect for us, they want to work with us because we haven't really pitched to them, but we've been so insightful and such a good advisor throughout that process. So we take those numbers: average order value, margin, cost per click, and margin, and that's the fourth one, is margin. So we want to know what is the margin on the cost of, what is the cost of the goods versus the price that they're charging. And because that's really important for knowing how scalable they are as a brand. And then I plug those numbers into my calculator that I've created in Excel, or I have it as a Google Sheet that I then share with them afterwards. And it's value that I share with them regardless of whether they go ahead with us.
Gotcha.
And we plug it in there, and then we can look at scenarios. We can look at, like, if they spent 2K a month on ad spend, and then with our fees, does that then, with those numbers combined with, maybe say we as an agency might improve the efficiency by 10 to 20%. So if we were able to improve the conversion rate and the cost per click by, say, 20%, we put in those kind of slightly optimistic numbers. And then we plug in, like, what they've got available as media spend. A few scenarios, we might put 2K, 4K, 6K, 8K, for instance. Or if they're a bit of a bigger spender, we might put 10K, 20K, 30K, 40K. And then we see what that spits out in terms of numbers, in terms of profit, after they've covered cost of goods sold, cost of ads, cost of agency. And we see if it all makes sense and looks like a sensible business decision for them. And if it doesn't, then we know that there's no point working together, because we're not magicians. We can't get them, a 200% increase in their conversion rate, or we can't come along and move their cost per click from £1 down to 20p. And sometimes I think clients think, I'm going to work with an agency and they're so good at ads that I'm just going to magically become profitable. Yeah. But actually, as we all know, these platforms, the ad costs are fixed by the market, and there's some leeway in terms of how you optimize. And then the conversion rate is kind of up to the client. I mean, better quality traffic will improve it somewhat, but actually, you know, not that much. And so we have that conversation about those numbers. If it all looks good, that's kind of how I say to them, well, you know, great news, your numbers work, and we would be happy to put together a proposal for you, and we'd be really excited to work with you, and we think your business makes sense. And if the numbers are saying no profit, or like losing money, or it's really, really tight, then that's a kind of a conversation that we have with them. And we've given them a huge amount of, saved them probably 10K, 20K of heartache and lost money. And also saved ourselves the trouble of onboarding a client, going through that whole thing of working with them for 3 months, for them only to realize that their business model doesn't work. And then we have to like offboard them, they're not happy. And then we have to like then go and find another client.
Yeah.
So for us, it's been a game changer. I will say sometimes it's been a little bit difficult, that conversation where it's a somewhat more of a naive e-commerce business owner who doesn't know their numbers at all and hasn't looked at their business in this way. And it can be a little bit deflating for them to realize that, Facebook ads aren't magic, and that, their business kind of doesn't stack up. But if they really believe in their business in the long term, then maybe it's a question of them, like, for some industries like skincare, that's a repeatable business model. So the profit might not come in that first transaction, but if they're willing to make that bet on that person buying 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times in the future, and they've got the runway to invest in the ads now, then that's great. We can work with them. But it's about having that discussion up front before we onboard them, because if they've only got, $5,000 in their bank account, and when that's run out, their whole business is going to fall over, then it's not the right time to invest in loss-making ads. Gotcha. If they're Uber or they're Amazon, they can invest in loss-making ads for 5 or 10 years. And we all know how that works, right? VCs are behind them and all of that. But if they're not that kind of business, we need to know that. And this whole process has just been fantastic at firstly weeding out the bad businesses, but making me look really good to the ones that are good, because we're talking about their business, not just about their ads. And I get told this time and again, like, wow, no other agency has talked about my business numbers like this. No other agency has even understands like my business like you do. Of course, I want to work with you. And it makes the sale, there is no, like, I don't have to do a sales pitch after that. So, yeah.
So, geez, there's quite a lot to unpack there. I mean, I think you've hit on a bunch of different things that we can go down. Obviously, we like to keep this as short as possible. So I'll dig into one or two of the things that you've mentioned that I think are worthwhile. I think what's important there is you've explained our forecasting, this forecasting spreadsheet, and this mentality of forecasting has been really great for you guys, because as you say, not only has it saved your clients the frustration and the effort of putting money into something that's not necessarily going to get them a return, for example, leads or business. But also, I think from an agency owner perspective, which I think is for us, is obviously we think about ourselves first, is more important is if you've saved your agency and your team and the frustration and the time and the effort and the actual cost, because all of those things land up costing you money. You've saved yourselves that money, which is huge, which is pretty great, and I think is important. The other really key thing I think that you've mentioned there, which I think is very valuable, is your reaction. Actually, I saw your face light up kind of thing, where you talked about how your clients have actually come to you and said, hey, no other agency's ever spoken about my business with these numbers. It's a very analytical approach, and I think it's quite clever in terms of you actually demonstrating, as you say, the value to the client, whether they use you or not, or whether it turns into a good relationship or not. You've demonstrated their value by digging into their numbers and asking them number relevant questions, which they should always have going forward. But often business owners don't have this information. So as a marketer, it's key to have that information, which I think is really valuable as well.
And I think it weeds them out, because we started off as an agency working with a lot of smaller business owners, founder run, that didn't know their numbers, and they just wanted ads, and like we did ads for them. Yeah. But what we've realized for the longevity of our business, we want to kind of move up the ladder in terms of the type of clients we're working with, and we need to work with clients that are a bit more savvy, that do know their numbers. Gotcha. And that do have a business that like makes sense in the long term, because we could keep working with these small businesses, but the churn is really high. It's stressful for my team to work with businesses that are like on a knife edge in terms of their profitability, especially at the moment. There's a lot more emotion that comes into those kind of clients. So it's a way for us to weed out the ones that aren't right to work with. But it also lines up with my values as an agency and why I started my agency, which is I can't stand agencies that just like the client wants ads, so they just do ads, whether ads are right for their business. I want to be an ethical agency that only advises my clients to do what's actually going to work for their business and drive success. Because even if that means saying no to a few businesses along the way, means in the long run, I'm going to be working with the right kind of businesses who are all going to have success with me.
Gotcha.
Rather than this mixed bag of like unsuccessful clients that then go and, you know, they blame you for the fact that their business was broken.
Yeah. So that brings up the next question. I think, obviously, as I said, I will ask you one or two tips that you can, maybe really practical things you can give anybody who's watching to go away with and implement into their agency immediately. But before we do that, I just got a real quick question about, which is probably going to be burning in some agencies' minds, because they are web design only agencies or SEO only agencies. You're obviously speaking from a very PPC focused agency perspective.
Yeah.
Obviously, as I'm saying, is you probably don't do SEO, don't do web design. I'm sure you wouldn't say anything against them. They're important parts of the digital marketing process, but they're not what you focus on. What would you say to an agency who's watching this, who's saying, hey, I'm an SEO agency. Can I implement the same thinking around forecasting into my business as well? Or is it specifically something that you know about in terms of PPC?
I mean, the thing is, where I think this idea originally came from was the fact that I wanted to show the value of of the work we did, rather than price ourselves on like a per hour basis, right? So rather than saying to a client, we're going to spend 20 hours a month on your business and that's £100 an hour, and therefore they feel like it's a cost of $2,000 a month. What I wanted instead to reposition it is we are going to help you grow your business to X. And if we're growing them to 100K, 200K a month, then the 2K a month becomes a non-issue. So it's about positioning what you do in terms of the value it gives to their business. So I think that would be one tip, is like when you're pitching, it's positioning like how you're going to bring value, and whether that value is a value that is quantifiable with numbers or not. You still need to position the value that you bring, the experience, the way that, the expertise, the years of experience you have, and how that's going to benefit their business. But I would say, SEO is quantifiable, right? And like a client's not going to do SEO unless they're going to get ultimately clicks and traffic. And so I know it's hard for SEO agencies to like make promises around numbers, but at least you can say like, here's a couple of scenarios. This is on average how much your traffic would grow by. And then you could work out how much would that traffic cost to buy. And we all know it's super expensive. You can get those numbers off the internet, right? £1 a click, whatever it is in that particular industry. If it's B2B, it's even more. So then you could quantify like the value of that traffic that's going to come, and then the value from that traffic of how many sales they're going to get, and then make that amount you're charging seem like insignificant compared to what they're going to get.
It's a bit of a perspective shift in a way, and it's a mindset shift for you as an agency. You need to shift your mindset around, hey, stop thinking so much about the numbers, think about more the value. And as you say, is shifting the perspective as well around, it's not about it's not about necessarily the leads you're getting, but actual value of those leads that will make sense.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. That's a very good tip. Are there maybe one or two other ones that you just want to share quickly? Is there anything else that agencies can think about? Obviously, it's not an overnight thing, forecasting, but it's something that I think a lot of agencies might be new to them. So is there anything else they should know?
Yeah. The thing is, once I built this forecast tool, it's actually super easy. It takes me like 1 minute to fill it in before I jump on a call with a client. So one of my pre-call questions to them are like, what's your average order value, margin, cost per click, and conversion rate? Those 4 numbers. And then I just plug them in, and then it's like, wow, she's done so much work. But actually, it took me a couple of hours to build the forecasting tool, and now it's done. Yeah. Another tip I would say is, I guess it's just on that same theme, like your agency is defined more by who you say no to than who you say yes to. And be brave and say no to those businesses that are going to take you as the owner away from the business, that aren't that are going to be distracting, going to be emotional, going to be hard work, and focus on filtering those people out, those businesses out, and find the businesses that are going to be successful and grow and give you a good reputation and all of that. That's a big tip from me.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's not one we haven't heard before. It's one of those tips I think that everybody hears and everyone knows and everyone even tells themselves, but when the rubber meets the road and they're actually going to make that decision, we often make bad decisions as agent owners because we we just, whether it's whatever, for whatever reason, whether it's revenue or it's vanity or whatever it is, we say yes
Yeah.
or no. So that's a really good tip.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Jess, thank you so much, man. That's been really, really helpful. And I must say, it's quite a unique, as I said to you before, it's quite a unique topic, which is really fun. It's always nice to delve into something unique. Guys, as usual, we'll leave the video up in the community so that you can rewatch it. It'll be on our YouTube channel, and keep an eye on our Instagram and Twitter so that you can see some clips from the video. If you are interested, of course, Jess, if you are interested, sorry, if anyone's interested, I'm sure you'd be open to having a conversation. If anyone wants to take the conversation further, maybe pick your brain or engage with you potentially to help them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That'll be amazing. So you can we'll just put your details down below under the live, and we'll add it to the YouTube and whatnot. But
Great.
cool. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
No worries. See you again soon.
Yeah, be well, eh? That is.
Is that it? Do I just leave?
There you go.